Gary Breen is on the line. Gary, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Not a bad weekend on the Irish, kind of in the Irish abroad front. Obviously, Sheffield United doing so well last night. Ryan Manning notching a goal for QPR. In fairness, we had a start as well for Brady, his first start in ages. So things not looking too bad for some of the Irish players in England at the very least.
No, they're not, and I know this is obviously a massive topic of debate, but James McCarthy as well. He's getting his minutes at Crystal Palace. He starts in that win against West Ham. He'd been frustrated not to start against Manchester City, but I think that bodes well. I think certainly James McCarthy, we've been saying it for so many seasons now, and he's just had those injury problems that have struggled. But if you could get him back in and amongst that team, it would be a massive boost for that game against the Danes, because I think we need someone of his quality in central midfield. I think Glenn Whelan does a job, but playing up against Eriksen in that 10 area, they're wide people coming in from outside and playing just behind our midfield unit. Glenn won't be able to do it on his own. He couldn't do it on his own at 25, let alone 35. So I think we certainly need some quality in there alongside him. Yeah,
we'll talk Christian Eriksen shortly and Tottenham. Where are you generally on the Ireland situation? What chance do you give us against Denmark?
Oh, listen, I give us a big chance. Obviously, the momentum that Mick built initially has certainly slowed down. Those last two performances were disappointing. Mick was quite bullish afterwards, saying he'd took the draw in Georgia. The reality is we should be going to Georgia and winning. And if you look at the scenarios over the last couple of campaigns, whoever drops points in Georgia, invariably it affects their qualification. Scotland win the driving seat. They lost points there. We profited. And then obviously when Denmark dropped points, we felt, oh, this is a great opportunity for us to take advantage. We didn't. So it is frustrating. I think the Swiss team were comfortably better than us. That was no real surprise. And of the two games that remained, I always felt that Denmark at home was our best chance of qualifying.
Absolutely, yeah. So the weekend's action, Manchester United won, Liverpool won. This is a game, unfortunately. Did you see it, Andy?
I watched most of it, yeah.
Yeah, what you make of
it? United seem to be the better team, surprisingly, on top. They seem to have a good game plan in terms of the back three and then the wing backs. But it'd be interesting to see what Gary thinks. Like, I've seen some quotes saying that they've turned the corner. Solskjaer saying, is it just a one-off because it's Liverpool and it's almost like a cup match? You know, how will they do against Norwich next week? You know.
Exactly. I mean, I was impressed in terms of how they performed, and a lot's been made of it. It was a tactical, really good performance tactically. We split strikers. We saw that system what he played at Tottenham last year, which was ultimately a definitive result in terms of going up against Pochettino, going to Tottenham and winning. But the reality was that it was only a first half performance. De Gea had to make 11 saves in that second half. And likewise, again, they start well, but they just can't maintain it. And ultimately, they can produce performances like this because they're good footballers. But the difference is they're not consistently good footballers. They're not Manchester United quality, and they won't be challenging up the top. They'll revert to type soon enough.
How much was Salah missed?
It was a huge miss, but I was surprised by it all at Liverpool, Johnny, in terms of how much the game and the occasion affected them. Now, we're talking about a team that's got to show that character to go on and win a title now, Champions League winners as such. But even Jurgen Klopp, I know he's quite demonstrative, he's animated at the best of times, but he was affected by it. It seemed like the occasion was that big for him, but they soon got it right. He showed his qualities in terms of how quickly he changed the system. I think he played 3 different systems in that second half to really put United on the back foot, and it was no surprise that they did get their goal, because I never felt like that United would keep them out for the 90 minutes.
There's nothing wrong with getting a 1-1 draw at Manchester United. Like, in fairness, Manchester United defensively are solid this season. They went 1-0 behind, as limited as they are. It's still a huge game. Nothing wrong with getting a 1-1 there. But my thing, what I put to you is, Liverpool kind of need to win the league from the situation they've rather fallen into a situation where I don't think they've necessarily been at their best. They fell into a situation where they went 8 points clear, and whatever about last year, they kind of shouldn't be able to. They shouldn't be letting this slip, to my mind.
No, I don't. I agree with you there. I feel that everyone associated with Liverpool, from the club to the supporters to the media, this really expect now a Premier League title. It's the elusive title that they haven't been able to get. I know they've been able to win Champions Leagues as such, but it's the league that they want more than anything else. They're in a great position, of course they are. You can't really see them slipping up, ultimately because of the fact that City have so many problems at centre-half, and I know that they'll beat most of the teams in the Premier League, but when they come up against the stronger ones, that will be exposed. But I look at Liverpool and I just feel that Klopp has done a brilliant job. They've evolved, because if you think of them a couple of seasons ago, it was literally we attack, you attack, and the goals were going in, flying in. Last season, they had a bit more control about, and they dominated games to the extent where people were starting to question why weren't they getting so many goals, notably that front three. But that's what you need to be able to do. You need to be able to win when you're not playing particularly well. And they did it. United had an opportunity, but it's no surprise United just can't ever seem to get that second goal. I think it's an amazing stat in terms of that they've only got one goal. Never seem to get the second one, but it's just indicative of where they are and the reduced state of Manchester United. But nevertheless, Liverpool will be delighted that they got out of there with a point.
Was it a tactical success for Solskjaer?
Listen, I don't think you have to be a particular tactical genius to know that if you want to stop Liverpool, you've got to push their fullbacks back. You know, the very fact that Salah was missing enabled them to go 3 for 3 in a way that they wouldn't do up against someone like him. They played well, yes, they did. The split strikers, Pereira, being in and around Fabinho, stopping him playing out was a success. He wasn't the usual player that developed Liverpool's rhythm that we normally associate with him. So they did well, but listen, it wasn't rocket science.
What about Liverpool? What have you made of them so far? Like they've, if you go back to the last 5 or 6 games, they kind of wobbled past Chelsea, struggled to beat Sheffield United, struggled to beat Leicester, struggled to beat Red Bull Salzburg in many respects, didn't beat Manchester United. So where are you at with them at the moment?
I still think they're in a great position. I think it's unlikely you're going to play brilliant football from the start to the finish, but they're getting the results. And I think ultimately the biggest difference I've noticed is certainly in the beginning of the season was that defensive line really wants to squeeze high up the pitch, try and hold it on the halfway line. And as a result, the opposition can find it quite easy to turn them. You just have to just play balls into the channel and invariably you'd get them turned and you'll get your team up the pitch. So that needs to be ironed out a little bit. I think Gomez initially got the nod at centre-half because he has that brilliant recovery pace, but has struggled a bit, to be perfectly honest. And Matip has come in and been the main man. But at times he's looked vulnerable in that system. So, and incredibly, Van Dijk didn't look at his brilliant best on the game against United. So they need to work on it. But the positives are also is that the strength and depth they have coming from the bench. Lallana, who's had a terrible time of injuries, comes back and impacts. Oxlade-Chamberlain, Naby Keita as well. So it just shows you that the brilliant squad that he has built there.
You say incredibly about Van Dijk, but this hasn't been anomalous in the sense of the last few games. Initially,
No.
that Red Bull Salzburg game, even playing for the Dutch as well, I think it was against Belarus, he just all of a sudden looks vaguely vulnerable.
Yeah, well, do you know what it is, Johnny? It's because the game, and this is something that's been he's been accused of throughout his career, because the game is so easy, he kind of switches off, and he's got a little bit of arrogance, and you need that. No doubt, he's comfortably the best centre-half in the world. But I just feel that he's feeling a little bit like, yeah, this is easy. And as a result, people are taking advantage of him. I remember initially a goal against Germany where he allowed Gnabry to cut inside. And rather than closing down quickly, he just said, yeah, go and have a shot. And Gnabry put it into the top corner. So this is something that they need to address. He's a brilliant centre-half, but just those concentration levels frustrate you a little bit because at times he finds it too easy and as a result makes silly mistakes.
Let's talk Tottenham. A lot of the back page is dominated by Pochettino admitting or speculating to some extent that he's under pressure, and obviously tonight they're in Champions League action at home to Red Star Belgrade. 3 wins from, was it the last 9? 3 wins from the last 12. 3 wins from 12, I think, this season. All clearly not well at Tottenham.
No, it isn't, and it's even worse than that. I think they lost 20 games last season, so getting to the Champions League final really papered over the cracks. And they go to this new stadium, brilliant training ground. Everyone's talking about a new era, but I always felt this, and I was consistent with it. I felt it was the end of one, to be perfectly honest, because with each season since they've left White Hart Lane, they've got weaker. They genuinely have got weaker. That team that finished the season at White Hart Lane was so dominant. That was the time to win a Premier League, and they're just drifting away now. And I think the realisation and the frustration that comes from Pochettino is that he knows it. The ceiling's been reached. He goes to the Champions League final, comes to a new stadium. They're in London, in the Premier League with that newfound wealth. He tries to go and get top-class players, proven players, and no one wants to go to Tottenham. They all want to go to United, even though they're having their struggles. They all want to stay at City, Liverpool, even at Juventus, these type of... And this is the frustration that he has, is that he cannot get Tottenham over the line in terms of competing at the highest level. And I genuinely think that this will be the beginning of the end at Tottenham now, because so many of that brilliant team will disband now with no trophy. You're going to lose players for nothing, which is incredible, bearing in mind what a businessman Daniel Levy is. And he said that he'd never be caught out in a way that he was with Sol Campbell going to Arsenal on a free transfer, where he's going to lose Eriksen, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, all for nothing. And you're talking about best part of £150 million there.
Do you see that in Eriksen's body language as well? That you know, I was referencing with Andy the interview he gave to Nathan Murphy, where he essentially walked out on the Journalist of the Year after Ireland played Denmark. And he wouldn't answer the question. But I was like, well, you know, we've all done these interviews where we're kind of made to look like fools. But in fairness to Nathan, he asked the question, and I was just saying to him, well, obviously Eriksen is gone, but here he is months later still playing for Spurs. But clearly mentally he's not there.
No, and he's not alone. You think about the fact that Danny Rose was left behind in pre-season to go and find a new club. That doesn't happen. Vertonghen, Alderweireld getting to the last 6 months of their contract. It's a nonsense. And you just see that dressing room is unsettled. And as a result, Pochettino is. And the frustration for me is that Pochettino is doing too many of these sound bites now. He's talking about there's the wrong energy in the change room. Well, a lot of it's coming from him. He was the one who initially said about leaving Tottenham on the eve of a Champions League final and saying that if I want to achieve what I want to do, I might have to go elsewhere. Well, what type of message is that to your players? And Daniel Levy's done a brilliant job. He's assembled a young, vibrant team and a top-class manager for a fraction of their worth, for half of what they would probably be getting elsewhere, other clubs. But it's come back to bite him now because they're going to leave for nothing.
It's kind of sad as well, because they were so, you know, like the season they had last season weren't a million miles off challenging for the title as well, with, as Gary says, their team that was assembled for relatively small amounts, Andy.
Yeah, but like, how long does Pochettino hang around himself before his reputation starts to, you know, be affected? If
you already have your coaching kind of cap on you,
get into United.
Yeah, yeah. Well, where does he go, Gary? Because you know, obviously you don't want to be there and your reputation week by week is getting a bit less, but I imagine he's still, like, I guess, top 5 coaches in the world in terms of a job that he might get.
Oh yeah, he'd be well sought after, no doubt. Real Madrid has struggles with Zidane at the moment, obviously United, if he becomes available. And this is the pressure that's on Solskjaer in terms of that. There's a lot of the times United will look at the situation with him and say, well, listen, what are our options? There's very little out there. Suddenly, if Pochettino comes on the market, it puts huge pressure on him. In a way, also, that Frank Lampard's doing such a good job at Chelsea that people are comparing the two. We're saying, well, why aren't you bringing through quality players like you said you were going to, in a way that Lampard is? So I think it's a difficult one. I don't see Pochettino staying at Tottenham for much longer, because I don't believe that he will think he can achieve any more. Because if you're talking about him developing another team, another new cycle, he's already proved that at Tottenham over the last 6 years. He proved it at Southampton in terms of how many players he established into internationals even. He won't want to do it again. He wants trophies. He's that type. And I think he'll look at the situation and think, no, the ceiling's been reached. And I think he will be now looking at his options.
Are they vulnerable tonight?
Well, in terms of how much they're imploding recently, they need a massive win. There's no doubt about it. But the mood's changed. It really has. If you think about how dynamic they were and everyone was pulling in the right direction, they were backing this young sought-after manager, all that seems to have gone out. There seems to be a darker mood around there at Tottenham at the moment. And listen, I would expect them to win against Red Star. They're strong. You know what I mean? They should be stronger than them, but you just don't ever know. Look how Watford nearly went there and won at the weekend.
One other thing I wanted to bring up with you, when Ireland played in Georgia and all the Irish fans were in the bar beforehand and England went behind and Declan Rice was taken off, it was probably the biggest cheer of the whole weekend, I think. But Daniel McDonald...
You've got to put some money in that. You've got to put some money in that jar. You've mentioned Declan Rice. Here we go again.
I'm going to mention him again. Daniel McDonald, Grealish may yet prove to be a bigger loss to Ireland cause than Rice. And I think Stan Collymore in his column speaks about Grealish as well. But the basic point, Grealish versus Rice, where are you with that, and how much of a loss is Rice to us in terms of the international setup?
In terms of the quality of both players, in isolation, it's a huge loss for us in terms of that physicality and holding midfield with Rice, and then that creativity at 10 and advanced midfield of Grealish. Massive loss. But the reality is they're not Irish. they've proved it. You know, if they were, they would be playing. And I've always been consistent on this. Go and have an international career with whoever you think you're from.
Well, they're mixed race, aren't they, Gary?
Oh, they're not mixed race, are they?
Irish, English?
Well, listen, they're up. The decision is theirs, but I've been quite consistent on this. I don't believe in being able to put on two jerseys. They're eligible. Yeah, I agree with that. But whether or not they actually consider themselves Irish, if they did, they wouldn't have done what they had.
But he would have been Irish if he hadn't been good enough to play for England.
Well, yeah, this is the frustration. You know, it's not a career move, in my opinion, playing for your national team. It shouldn't be allowed. You don't try a jersey on and, you know, audition in it. I don't agree with that. You know, we're going over old ground here. In terms of their qualities, yes, we don't have similar, and we'd have loved to have seen players of that quality. But likewise, I'd love to have seen players of that quality who believe they're Irish.
100% with Gary.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I defended Declan Rice a lot, but I found, I do find him, you know, singing God Save the Queen in his English jersey a little bit hard to take given his background. But before we wrap up with you, who wins the Premier League and why?
Liverpool win the Premier League because of the strength and depth they've got in their squad, and ultimately because of the problems that City have at centre-half. But 6 points, if anyone can bridge it, it is Manchester City, and it is ultimately Pep Guardiola. So it's still so much to play for, there's no doubt about it. But I just feel that Liverpool can win ugly games now in a way that they never could before. And I think they will top up the points.
Any interest in going to watch Andy Lee's latest prodigy boxing in Britain in the near future?
Where's he boxing?
He's fighting in Glasgow, November 16th, Paddy. If you're up that way, definitely get your ticket, Gary.
Brilliant. I'd love to. I'd love to see any Irish sport doing well and like that. So best of luck to him.
Well, he's speaking very highly of this kid. His first professional fight the weekend before last, and had a 1 minute knockout or something like that.
Yeah, first round. So he's flying the flag if Declan Rice isn't.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. The long may it continue.
Yeah.
Great to talk to you, Gary.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers,
Enjoyed
Gary.
it.